Can you repeat your question? What is the question? Okay. In Aparoksha Anubhuti, Sri Shankaracharya says, surrender to Guru, right? So he told three things. Through Atmadnana, Shravana, Manana, Nidhyasa, get a mukti, which is called Rajamarga, royal path. If somebody is not ripe enough, he has to do Hatha Yoga, which is Patanjali Mahari's Hatha Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So even that is difficult. Then the best way is to surrender to Ishvara and surrender to Guru, is what he said. Your question is, what is surrender to surrender? What is the meaning of surrender to Ishvara? What is the meaning of surrender to Guru? Is this different or same? First, you have to understand the word surrender. So the moment you hear the word surrender, what comes to your mind? Somebody is pointing a gun at you. Okay, then you lift your hand. I surrender. Right? So what is the meaning of lifting my hand? I'm not fighting. Okay, I surrender. If you kill or if you save me, it's up to you. It's not under my control. Right? That's why I lift my hand. So that's why the terminology called lifting the hand is there in English. Lifting the hand, correct? Is there in English. So you lift your hand. Okay, that means you are giving up. Right? So there the surrender is because of fear. Surrender is because of fear. When enemy points a gun at you, a thief points a gun at you, you surrender out of fear. Do you have any choice? Either way is going to shoot. So if you surrender, there's a chance of survival. That's what you're thinking. Right? That's why you surrender. So such surrender is because of fear. Now there's a surrender out of love. Surrender out of attachment. Moha. Right? So you surrender out of moha, attachment. The child makes a noise. Get me this. Mother says, no, don't do that. The child says, I want this. Then mother surrenders. Okay, take it. You surrender. It's your choice. Right? Now, what has happened? The moha called the child is there. The attachment. Right? So many times the husband surrenders to wife. Okay? When he has no choice, of course. Right? So whatever wife says, okay, as you say. Or wife surrender. So that is not out of moha. That's out of obligation. You don't have a choice because you are married. Okay? There's a bondage. So you can have surrender out of fear. You can surrender out of attachment. Or you can surrender out of obligation. Correct? Now, is there any other type of surrender? There is surrender out of love. And that surrender out of love is called surrender to Ishvara. What do you understand by the word called love? Tell me. You know love. I love this, my friend. I love my partner. I love my husband. I love my wife. I love my children. Right? The love is a feeling of connectedness. Is it true? Love is, I am connected. That's why you love. And you love something which gives you happiness. I love music because music gives me happiness. Correct? So whatever can give me happiness, that relationship with that object is called love for me. True? Do you love anything which doesn't give you happiness? Which gives you suffering? So the love is a relationship to something which gives me happiness. That's called love. Love is a relationship. What gives me happiness? Correct? Our love is very limited. I love my friend because my friend gives me happiness. How? Over the phone call, if I talk 2 hours, my friend is able to spare time for me. That's why I love my friend, because nobody listens to me. My friend listens to me for 2 hours. So tomorrow the friend doesn't listen to you for 2 hours. Then love gets shaken. Love means something which gives you happiness. Is that correct? Is the definition of love correct?
It should be more
something gives me comfort and happiness is called love. Otherwise, you don't have love. Is the understanding of love clear? Or we always love something which gives me happiness. Correct? And makes my life comfortable. So your husband takes care of you by going and working somewhere, or your wife takes care of you. You love your husband, wife, because they give happiness to you in some form. At least they don't give unhappiness to you. Right? So that's why in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there's a conversation between the Maitreyi and Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya is the husband, Maitreyi is the wife. Yajnavalkya had two wives, Maitreyi and Katyayani. So Yajnavalkya wants to go to forest taking sannyasa. Why does he take sannyasa? Yajnavalkya is a Mahadnani, Brahmadnani. Why should he take sannyasa? Because as Grahastha, as a householder, he has done all his duties. He is a Brahmadnani. He doesn't have to do anything. He makes performs his dharma. Teaching, helping people, doing yajna, all as a part of yajna. Even a Brahmadnani does everything as a part of yajna, service, Loka Kalyana. If Brahmadnani himself doesn't do something, then there'll be people who will be misguided. It will be fall for them. So as a Brahmadnani, he did everything what is required as a householder. Earning money, taking care of family, teaching children, bringing up a Gurukula, all those things he did. In fact, he opened a Gurukula in Russia. That's why Russia is called Rushavarta. Rushi Avarta means place where Rishis had an ashram. So Yajnavalkya did everything to do Sanatana Dharma as a dharma. Okay. But then he became old that he can't perform his dharma. So as a Brahmadnani, he can stop doing his dharmic activity. But then it will send a wrong signal to the society. Right? That's why he said, I'll take sannyasa. As sannyasa, society accepts that he should not do anything. Then he distributed his wealth to his wife Maitreyi and Katyayani. Then Maitreyi asks him, what is what is important in life? Okay. So Yajnavalkya says, all of us love somebody because they give me happiness. Husband loves the wife because wife gives him happiness. Right? If wife doesn't give happiness, it is a divorce. Wife loves the husband because husband gives us happiness. If husband doesn't give happiness, it will be a divorce. So love means always what gives me happiness. That's why the shloka says, Atmanastu kamaya maitreyi. Everything in the world, we love something because it gives us happiness. For the sake of happiness of self, me. The self here is me, not the pure self, Brahman. Right? Whatever I consider myself, I get happiness. Atmanastu kamaya maitreyi, that sloka goes. Then Yajnavalkya says, Atma reva drashtavyam, shrotavyam, mantitavyam maitreyi. You should focus on knowing the self. Drashtavyam means knowing. Shrotavya means you have to hear about self. Mantavya means you have to contemplate. Nididhyasitavyam, you have to do nididhyasa for Atma. Because ultimately, why we want happiness from somebody? Please tell me. I want happiness from you. I want happiness from you. That's why I love you. Right? Why? Because I like love. The love gels with my nature. Right? Happiness gives me, love gives me happiness. That means happiness is my nature. What is my nature? I want to accept. What is not my nature, I don't want to accept. If happiness is my nature, that's why I love somebody so that I can get happiness. The happiness is my nature. Ananda is my nature. Deep inside, I know. Right? It gels with me. Ananda, I'm comfortable with Ananda because it's my Swarupa, nature, essential nature. I don't know Atma, Brahman. But somewhere I feel Ananda is something which I want to accept. Right? So love for anybody is not because you love a husband or a wife. You love because they give you happiness. Because happiness is your nature, you love. So what is primary? Love is primary or happiness is primary? Happiness is primary. Right? So for your happiness, you are loving somebody. So then when a boy says to a girl, I love you, Okay. Or girl says a boy, I love you. What exactly they are saying? Give me happiness. So understand, the hidden statement there is give me happiness. That's what is the meaning of I love you, right? I love you appears to be that, oh, this person loves me. Really what he's saying, I love you, I expect happiness from you. Now, expecting happiness from anybody is a bondage. Because to be happy, the other person should be happy now. He is also expecting happiness from you. The girl is expecting happiness from boy, boy is expecting happiness from you, girl. Right? So then it becomes a bondage, it's a lock. I'm trying to extract happiness from you and you extract happiness from me. Both are poor people. Both are really deep inside, they're unhappy. Huh? So both are begging happiness from the other. That's why the fight is there in the house. The fight is there in the love. Understand? How can you extract happiness from somebody who is already unhappy? But still you want happiness from that person. So that's where a lot of fights happen. Your expectations are not matching. Your stated requirement is I love you. But unstated requirement is give me happiness. So that poor fellow will try to give you happiness on your birthday. Happy birthday, I'll get a watch. So you're still unhappy because this watch, hey, it's a cheap watch. I want a better watch. Happiness we try to convert it to gift. Happiness doesn't come like that. Okay. We are trying to extract happiness from each other. Correct? So now, what is happiness for us? What makes our life comfortable? Correct? That's why we love. Your husband, you love your husband because every month he goes and earns salary for taking care of you and your family. You love your wife because she takes care of cooking and taking care of your family. Tomorrow the husband doesn't work. Still you love? Right? Tomorrow the wife doesn't do anything, take care of you. Will you love? Then you start looking for divorce. Right? So the happiness is something, love is something which you're expecting from somebody. There's a condition attached. The hidden condition is give me happiness. Right? Now the problem is the definition of happiness varies from one person to other person. So that's where the mismatch is. Okay. So understood love in reality. So that there is an attachment here. Because I want love from you, I want happiness from you, you want happiness from me. There's a moha, bondage is there. Right? You're like each of us are tying each other. They say in the marriage, they say tying a knot. Tying a knot. Right? So you're getting tied. Now, imagine somebody, okay, who is always taking care of you. Who doesn't expect any love from you? Imagine there is somebody who is always there, taking care of you for everything, right? But does not expect anything from you. Does not expect even a thanks from you. If there is some person, if there is something like that, will you love that person? He will take care of every need of yours. Will you love that person? Because ultimately you want to be, what makes you comfortable, peaceful, your love. There is somebody who is taking care of everything for you. Right? Will you love that person? Is there such person? Yeah. There are only two such things. One is Ishvara and other is Guru. Okay? Ishvara and Guru always know what to give. They don't have any expectation from you because they are themselves happy. Everybody else, when they give something, they want in return expectation. Only one who is always happy can give you something. Right? And without expectation, nothing is there. Just give out of happiness. Ishvara and Sadguru, realized master, only are two such entities who always have no expectation from you. They always know how to give. I'll tell you. Okay. Yeah. Wait. So, Ishvara and Guru are two beings. That's why Shankaracharya said, surrender to Ishvara and surrender to Guru. That's what he meant. Okay. So now, I told you surrender out of fear first. Then surrender out of obligation, I told you, right? Surrender out of moha, attachment, I told you. But when you surrender to Ishvara or Guru, it is out of love, not fear, not obligation, not any moha, attachment. What is this surrender out of love? That love is called bhakti. Okay. So the love itself has different levels of meaning. Love for a human being who is equal to me, right, is called prema. My husband, my wife, my child, it's called prema. The love which is there for my equals. The husband and wife also, there's a hierarchy. Wife or husband hierarchy. Mother and child, there's a hierarchy. It's called prema. But there's a love for equals. It's called sneha, friendship. Okay. Even friendship, there's a expectation. What is that expectation? A friend in need is a friend indeed. A friend comes to me and helps me, then he's a friend. Otherwise, he's not a friend. That means always there's an expectation for me. The love always has expectation. Right? So the love what we have is a corrupted love because it's always a condition attached. Do you have pure love for anything? Do you understand what is pure love? Pure love is where there's no expectation. And pure love is not possible for anybody unless they're perfectly happy. They're happy inside. Pure, they have Ananda Swarupa. So that's why only a Gnani, Guru can have pure love. Ishvara can have pure love because Ishvara has no expectation. Okay. So that love of Ishvara, he knows only to give. In pure love, you only know how to give. You don't have any expectation. If you love your child purely, or if you love your husband purely, or husband loves wife purely, it's only he knows how to give. Okay. But there is somebody who knows what to give, what is required for you, rather than what you think you need. Husband, even if he loves purely, he'll give a gift of watch to you or a mobile phone, probably iPhone one day. Okay. He gives you what you want. Okay. Because want is what makes you happy. But need is what you need in your life. What is you require in your life for your progress, for your evolution. Ishvara knows your need. Okay. Ishvara gives what is required for your need. What you need for evolution. And out of love he gives. And out of joy, Ananda he gives. Okay. So now, what does Ishvara give to you? What does Ishvara give to you? He has given you the whole world. The entire world, Panchabhutas, 5 elements. Akasha, Vayu, Jala, Agni, Prithvi. Such a big universe he has given. What your husband or wife has given to you? One house. 60 by 40 or 30 by 40. 30 by 40 house. So, Ishvara has gifted the entire universe to you. And is there any expectation? Is there a condition supply? Huh? There's no condition supply. There's no expectation. You are living, no? You are free to move around. You are able to breathe air. You are able to drink water. So everything Ishvara is given is completely free. No attachments, no condition supply. So whenever somebody says something is free, then we'll see what is the condition supply. Ishvara has no condition supply. He has given the entire universe for you. That's the Ishvara, Bhagavan. Okay. Has he asking anything from you? Nothing. That's why Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Phalam patram pushpam toyam yad bhaktya mayarpitam. Then phalam patram pushpam toyam. Are you have to give me anything, he says. I don't need anything. I don't expect anything from him. I'll be happy even if you give him phala, fruit, patra, leaf, pushpa, one flower, or toya. I'm not looking for what you give. I'm only looking for your love. I love you, but do you love me? That's the question he's asking. Understand? I love you. Do you love me? Do you love Ishvara? Just because your husband gets you salary or wife to take care of cooking, you love your wife. But somebody who has given you entire universe, do you love him? You are always a complaint for Ishvara. Why did I create suffering for me? Okay. You don't see what he has given to you. You have been given a body, which is actually the most sophisticated machine in the universe, which nothing else is as intelligent as body. Okay. You say now today artificial intelligence, intelligent cooking machine, intelligent washing machine. But your body is so sophisticated, eyes are functioning, ears are functioning, nose is functioning, whole thing is working perfectly. You don't even know how many cells are there in your brain. Is it functioning? If one cell in the brain is not working properly, then you don't know, where you are, where you'll be. Just one screw, there's a nut loose, they'll say. One nut is loose in the brain. Okay, there are trillion nuts. Right? There are trillions of cells in the body. One nut loose means one cell has gone bad. One cell in trillions, not even two. That's why they say nut loose means mentally disturbed. Imagine one nut is loose in your head. Then your whole life will be disturbed. Okay, you start seeing instead of a dog, a tiger in the street. Instead of seeing a tree, you'll start seeing a ghost. One nut loose in the brain. And that functioning of brain is taken care by Ishvara. Okay, and billions of cells, how to think, you don't know how to think. The thinking is taken care. You don't know how to make your eyes operate, function. You don't know how to make body function. You don't even know how to lift your hand. How much blood has to go from in the hand, you don't know. Everything is taken care for you. No conditions attached. Nothing is expected in return. The entire universe is running properly. So you don't have a doubt that tomorrow morning sun doesn't come. But you have a doubt that your maid will come or not. Housemaid. All right? You have doubt about everything, but you don't have any doubt about the universe because everything in the universe is functioning properly. Oh, tomorrow the air supply will not be there. No doubt. Air supply will be there. Everything in the universe is taken care for, from macrocosmic to microcosmic to atom level to your body mind level. Everything is taken care. No expectations. No claim that I did it. Okay. Nothing is expected. Who can do that? Tell me. Is it such possible? Pure love is love is possible in the universe. The pure love of Ishvara is making our life. Every moment of our breath is because of Ishvara. Everything what I see is because of Ishvara. Everything I hear is because of Ishvara. Bhagavan. Then something happens in your life. It's also because of Ishvara. Why? Anything happening in my life is because of good karma or bad karma. There are two things in life. Every moment something happens in my life. Correct? Life is full of action only. No? Everything happens. Every moment something happens in my life. Right? What happens to me is not my making. Then I would have always made what is favorable to me will happen. What happens in my life is not my making. It appears to me. For example, a courier comes. Okay, I don't have control of courier comes. The courier has come. It is happening. I have to accept it or reject it. Right? You can reject also. Wait a minute. Every moment something is happening in life. Okay. Now, what happens in your life? Can you accept or reject? There's no choice for you. Right? There's no choice to reject. You have to accept it compulsorily. Okay, what happens in your life? A success exam you may pass. Can be failure in the exam. You may get a business gain, business loss. Okay, you may get a good family, a good husband or wife, or you may have bad husband or wife, or bad in the sense of suffering. Right? Success, failure, anything. Every moment something is happening in your life. Action. True? Do you have a choice to accept or reject it? You don't have a choice. Correct? Now, what happens in your life, if you understand it's a gift from God, universe, you will not disrespect that. Let us say your friend comes and gives a gift to you. Okay? Your friend comes and gives a gift to you. Will you reject it? You will not disrespect it. Do you? Anybody giving a gift is a respect. You have to respect that. The Ishvara has given a gift to you. The entire universe has gifted to you. Your body is gifted to you. Your family is gifted to you. You will not disrespect by not accepting. Right? So similarly, favorable event and unfavorable event is also gift given by Ishvara. Correct? So that's a gift from Ishvara, gift from universe. Will you reject it? When you understand it's a gift from Ishvara, it's a direct gift from Ishvara. Direct Ishvara, gift from God. Will you reject it if it's a gift? No, I can say, let me say it's a gift. Okay? Forget about a gift from Ishvara. Forget a gift from anybody you will reject. Let's say your friend comes and gives you a cheap watch. Let's say 1,000 rupees watch. Whereas you are always accustomed to wearing 10,000 rupees watch. You will throw the watch in front of your friend's face and say you are giving him a cheap watch. Are you trying to say it's my thinking that no, wait. Are you, first question is, do you reject a gift from anybody? No. And disrespect them? No. Everything happening in your life is a gift from Ishvara. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? Yeah. Understand? So now, will you reject a gift if you understand it's a gift from Ishvara? Courier to you directly by Ishvara, Bhagavan? You can't, no? Will you? Huh? Will you reject a gift which is coming from a friend? So the Ishvara has sent a gift to you as a circumstance in life. Okay. Now, the gift from Ishvara is always with a good intention. Ishvara always is a well-wisher all the time. Okay. So you cannot question the intention of Ishvara because already he has done so many things to you. Right? So Ishvara doesn't send anything to you for causing you problem. Bhagavan doesn't send to you anything for causing problem, including a disease or ill health. It is not because he has a bad intention, he has a desire to trouble you. If intention is good, okay, why will you reject that gift? So the gifts are of two types. One gives you happiness and another gives you suffering, let's say. That means one gives you happiness and another gives you suffering. There are two types of gift. Okay. So why did Ishvara cause me suffering? You'll ask. So that's why you always say, why does God want to trouble me? That's the question you have. Why does Ishvara gives me suffering? Oh, he is a sadist, is it? Ishvara is a sadist, wants to give trouble to you. Bhagavan is a sadist. He is always joyful and he is always happy and he is giving you out of abundance. If he is a sadist, he will say, okay, breathe one, today air is free for today, limited time offer, tomorrow you have to pay. Does he say that? Nothing is your brain working. See, in your website, one day it's free, after that you have to pay. So your heart is working for today, tomorrow you have to pay for that. Does he say that? Your brain is working for today, tomorrow you have to pay for that. Does he say that? The entire thing is given by somebody who is magnificent, who is full of love, who is only wants your wellness. Why should he give you trouble? Why should he give you suffering? So that means the gift from Ishvara is neither suffering nor joy. Gift from Ishvara is a learning. It's a challenge. It's not a suffering. Okay. So it's there's something else trouble to us. There's no trouble actually. There's a challenge in life comes. Challenge in life can come in the form of husband, wife, or relationships. The challenge in that is, and business also, is there for us to learn. A challenge is not there to suffer, make you suffer. Example, a child goes to IIT entrance exam. The school teacher keeps on giving tougher and tougher problems. More and more challenging. So will you say, well, he's a sadist, he's giving me trouble? You understand his intentions are good. He wants you to make stronger. He wants to build strength in you. That's why he's giving bigger and bigger challenges. That's why when Ishvara gives something to you, it is either encourage you or give you more challenges so that you become stronger, you become better person. But if you say that this is a problem for me and suffering, that's your wrong understanding of what Ishvara and the gift which has come. Understand? You Ishvara, oh, that's why people say, oh God, why are you giving suffering? Okay. They say that. Right? So there was a great tennis player. Okay. He had a brain cancer, brain tumor. Okay. So somebody came and told him, did you pray to God that your brain tumor be healed? Okay. Do you feel bad that God has given you brain tumor? He was a young man, maybe about 40s. Then he said, no. I didn't ask God. And he gave me so many medals in the world, so many champion, this thing I won. Right? I accepted it. I won so many tournaments, so many medals, so much of money I got. I didn't ask God, why did he give me? Now, why should I ask God, why you are giving me brain tumor? That must be for my good only. Right? So what happens is we start labeling things in life. Oh, this is good, this is favorable. This I like, this I don't like. What I don't like, I'll always question God. Why did you give me? What you don't understand is the purpose of God is to make you learn, evolve. The evolution comes when there is challenges. Evolution doesn't come when you are comfortable. So the challenges are coming in your life for you to evolve. That's the intention of God. Now you'll start questioning why God gave me this. What is this? Why did he give? Why is causing suffering? He is not causing you suffering. He is giving a challenge for you, posing a challenge for you so that you grow. Like a school teacher gives a problem for you to grow. Then also you have to understand the nature of gift. The God does not give any gift for any individual. He only makes sure that what you have done comes to you. Anything which comes to you in your life is a result of good karma or a karma which you have done in the past. The God is running the greatest courier system in the world. The courier is, if you write an address, it will go to the right person. So Indian postal system has a courier system. If you write an address, it will go to that place. If the person has moved, it will find me and go. Redirected and goes. So that karma, God runs the courier system called karma. What you have done comes to you. Now, why should you feel bad about what comes to you? You only have written your address. That's why God is only making sure that it's delivered to you. If your address is coming back to you, then why are you crying about it? It's your past self which has sent the address to the future self. Why are you crying? And why are you blaming God? So God is sending the message which is sent by you to yourself. So punya means a good message. Papa means a message of pain or suffering. So now message comes to you for you to learn what you have to do in life. So the karma is a message for you. Karma is a message delivered to you. God only makes sure that the karma is delivered to you. So that system is being operated by God. Just like any system in the universe. The wind blows, the fire, the whole thing, whole universe operates. Law of karma is a functioning of the universe. What you have done, it will come back to you. So the gift is from your own self to yourself. The God is only facilitator, delivery. Now, if you understand this, everything is taken care in my life perfectly. Okay, by a being, Ishvara, who is full of love and no expectation. What should be your relationship to Ishvara? Please tell me. It's a pure love. It's a love only. We love God because God is taking care of us. So now people think that God will take care of me only if my child is get promoted or my disease goes. That's what we want. But God doesn't give you what you want. God, He uses what you need, what is needed for evolution. We have always expectation. I love God, provided conditions apply. What conditions? My child gets 91 marks. I love God because this person's health improves. So we have conditions for you, love. But God has no conditions for love. And God, whatever he does, is gives out of goodwill and for your own benefit. He gives what you need rather than what you want. There's a difference between what you want and what you need. Right? What is the difference between what you want and what you need? As a diabetic patient, I want laddu. Right? I want laddu, what I want as a diabetic patient. That's what taste. Okay? But my wife knows what I need. She'll give me sugarless coffee. No laddu. And laddu comes, she'll hide it. So she doesn't give me what I want. She gives me what I need. So there's a difference in what and need. God always gives you what you need, not what you want. God doesn't give you always easy things. He'll give you challenges for you to grow. If such a well-wisher is there, what should be your relationship with that God? Ishvara. It is love. Right? That love for such a being is called bhakti. What I told you, what is prema and what is sneha? Prema is for relatives. Sneha is for friends, equals. But a love for something who is much greater, bigger than us, is called bhakti. In bhakti, there are two components. There's love is there and deep respect is there. Love plus respect is called bhakti. Love for plus expectation is called prema. Love plus expectation is called sneha. Right? Always something plus is there. Love plus expectation from the husband and wife is called prema. Love plus attachment from the friend is called sneha. Love plus expectation is called prema for the husband and wife or family relationship. Love plus expectation is called sneha. I made a phone call. My friend has to reply back. See, I sent 10 WhatsApp messages. At least one WhatsApp message I should receive. Some expectation is there. Love plus expectation is called sneha, friendship. But love out of respect is called prem, bhakti, devotion. Right? So you understand devotion. So this is called devotion to God. Ishvara. Correct? Understand or not? So there is a difference. Now the Ishvara has a pure love for you. You have impure love for many people in terms of prema and sneha. Right? Impure love is love with attachment. Right? Conditioned love. Ishvara has unconditioned love. Somebody who has unconditioned love for you, the love for that Ishvara is called bhakti. Devotion. Are you clear? So that is the bhakti. Now in the bhakti, then you do puja every day to Ishvara. So God, you have given me so many things. I'm thankful to you. So puja you do with the expectation also. God, you have given me so many things. One thing is missing. Give me a little bit intelligence to my husband. Give me a little bit intelligence to my wife. Or make sure that my son passes. So you will also put conditions. That's conditions called is what we call prayer. Prayer is nothing but begging in another name. I want this, I want this. Already what is given is not sufficient for you. Whole universe is given, the body is given, health is given. Okay, entire thing is given, but still I want more. So that is called prayer. And Ishvara answers to your prayer sometimes also. He doesn't answer to your prayer sometimes, but make sure that you will evolve. Right? So that's called kamya karma, kamya bhakti. Bhakti with the desire. You don't understand Ishvara. So the Nishkama service, now you will come to understand, oh, Ishvara has given so many to me. I don't have, he gives out of love. Then what can I give to Ishvara? What can I give back to Bhagavan? That question comes to you. So bhakti starts from point of view, understanding that Ishvara is love and I love Ishvara. And love definition you already told. Right? In love for Ishvara, there's no attachment from Ishvara. Any love, there's an attachment or conditions apply. In Ishvara, love for Ishvara, there's no attachment. Conditions apply. So then I want to give back to something. What can you give back to Ishvara? Tell me. You cannot give anything back to Ishvara. So you give fruits, Naivedyam. After that, ultimately, you only eat the Naivedyam. You make very sweet dishes. Okay, you only eat that. Ishvara doesn't take it. Ishvara, the moment Ishvara takes that Naivedyam, you will make sure that you'll put less ghee. Okay, you'll make sure that he'll preserve something. Okay, if you think that Ishvara is coming and taking all this laddu and sweet, then you'll make sure that only few things are kept on the Naivedya. Other things you'll keep locked inside. Ishvara doesn't take anything from him, doesn't expect anything from him. You understand? So then still you want to, because of he has given out of love to you, you want to give something back to Ishvara, even though he doesn't expect. Then you say, okay, Ishvara, Bhagavan, you have given to me. Okay, you have given me good body and mind. Let me give back to you. Then Ishvara says, Sarvo, this society, service to the universe, service in the universe is the, what you call as service to Ishvara. Ishvara is there in everybody. So you are rich, somebody is poor. If you can help poor, there is a service to Ishvara, because the Ishvara is there in that person also. Okay, taking care of animals also is service, because animals also, they are suffering. This is where the concept of yadna comes into picture. Both yadna, deva yadna, pitra yadna, manushya yadna, rushi yadna. Service to human beings. Not because you are serving a human being, you are seeing God in him and you are serving God, Ishvara. You are actually serving Ishvara in all the living beings. Ishvara in animals, you are serving. That's called yadna. Ishvara in the form of human beings, you are taking care, participating in rushi yadna. That's a service to Ishvara, Bhagavan. So that's what you can give. You cannot give anything else. You give service. Now Bhakti Yoga got converted to Karma Yoga. So you don't think the Karma Yoga is separate. Bhakti Yoga becomes Karma Yoga. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Bhakti Yoga and Bhakti and Karma are not different. Bhakti Yoga, devotion gets converted to devotional service. That's called Karma Yoga. A Karma Yoga without devotion becomes just a routine. I'll do my duty. So Bhakti Yoga becomes Karma Yoga. Are we clear? So when Bhakti becomes Karma Yoga, Ishvara doesn't expect anything from you. Because you are Bhakti and Karma Yoga, there's a deeper purification happens in your life. What is the purification? Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga are nothing but surrender. The surrender means Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. Surrender, you have different words. Okay. What is surrender? Sharanagati. Okay. Sharanagati, Bhakti Yoga is surrender. Oh God, you are taking care of everything for me. You know everything. You are the all-knowing principle. Whatever happens in my life, you are the one who is giving, good or bad. Okay, now the surrender is not out of fear. Like a terrorist put a gun to your head, you surrender. That's not fear. Okay, you surrender to your child because of emotions. You surrender to your spouse because of a bondage. So now you surrender to Ishvara. Oh God, whatever you are giving to me is your grace. And you only know good for me. What is good for me? I don't even know what is good for me. How can I know what is good for me? Then whatever you give, I accept. So in Kannada, there is a saying, Halalla adru haku, neeralla adru haku. You put me into milk, I'm okay. If you put into water, I'm okay. You know, you are the knower. So don't you think Ishvara doesn't know? He knows every single thing. One who knows the sound of the anklet in the leg of the ant. When an ant moves, ant has an anklet. That sound also Ishvara knows. He knows macroscopic level and microscopic level. Listen carefully. Macroscopic level and microscopic, he knows everything. He knows what is good for me, he will give. Many times I may feel it's a challenge, but it's good for me only. It can be disease or death also, it could be good for me. It's good for me only. So then you have total surrender. Right? So accept Ishvara, whatever he gives. Then the moment total surrender is there, the mind is peaceful. Acceptance of life. You'll accept everything in life as comfortably, as peaceful. Our problem is not accepting life as it is. Understand? We don't accept in life. We want to reject. The rejection causes unhappiness, because rejection I don't like. That is actually a suffering. If I give a gift to you, will you accept it? You'll feel happy. Acceptance leads to happiness. If I cause a hurt to you, you'll reject it. Okay? Because it hurts you. And anything which you are rejecting is either cause of hurt or causes hurt. So when that you can do in the low world, but if anything comes from Ishvara, you don't have a choice to reject. You accept it. Now you can accept it smilingly, or you can accept cryingly. Accept, smile, or cry. But when you understand, Ishvara is giving only for your good. You always accept is smiling. Why should you cry? Right? A gift from the universe is coming to you in day-to-day life. Why will you cry? You will accept joyfully. The joyful acceptance of life as it happens in my life is called surrender. Are you joyful when it happens to you in your life? That's surrender. Maybe good things happen, maybe bad things happen. But the good and bad things is your mental labeling. That's not Ishvara, Bhagwan. So this day is a bad day. Somebody says, the day is not bad. It's raining. That's a message for you to take an umbrella. That's all. So accepting whatever comes from Ishvara joyfully is called surrender. So it doesn't mean that you will be not doing anything about it. You will act. You don't react. Sometimes situations are favorable to you, comes to you. Sometimes unfavorable situation comes to you. Change what you can. That's called surrender. Doesn't mean sitting idle. Arjuna has to go to warfield. He has to fight. So no, surrender means run away from the warfield is not a solution. You have to fight. Change what you can is surrender. Accept what you can't is surrender. Don't cry. This accept. Why you will accept something which you can't change? Because then you understand this is because of my karmic impressions. I have got it. What messages I have sent, it's come to me. I am accepting it. Correct? So why you reject it? Why you cry? Accept what you can't. Change what you can. Accept what you can't. That's our current surrender. Is the meaning of surrender clear? Then surrender doesn't mean being passive. Doesn't mean being idle. Surrender means whatever comes in life, accepting as it is, without complaints. Surrender means doing your best. And surrender means doing your best. If things don't happen, just accepting it, being peaceful. The surrender brings peace in you. If you are not peaceful, then you say, whatever words you say, I am surrendered, it's not surrender. Are we clear? That is to surrender to Ishvara. So in the process of surrender to Ishvara, what will happen is your emotional disturbance will come down. Otherwise, every moment you are reacting. This should not happen. You only have a judgment. This should not happen. This should happen. This should not happen. The emotional stability will come to you. So then you start offering something back to Ishvara. You start learning to I want to give back to something to Ishvara. That you start doing service. So bhakti leads to karma yoga. Devotion service. Devotion service is out of love for Ishvara. Seeing Ishvara in every living being. Okay? Every being. Animals, human beings, for people who are suffering, elders, and offering something back to Ishvara in the form of Jnana, Rishi Yajna. It's all surrender. So karma, bhakti yoga leads to karma yoga. So somebody says, I'm just doing karma yoga, he is doing social service. A devotion service is karma yoga. Are we clear? So now if you do karma yoga, what will happen to you? What happens in karma yoga? Earlier, any activity you do is for selfish reason. I want this, I want this, I want this. Now I'm doing karma yoga. God, I want to be closer to you. I want to purify myself. Bhakti yoga is bringing peace to me. I want to purify myself so that I want to become, I want to come closer to you. I want to become one with you. I want to experience you. So there's an intention. Intention is purification. The purification happens multiple levels. So in karma yoga, you always work for a cause. Means you will take up one activity which is higher than you. Right? So for example, you're participating in Rishi Yajna. You're doing transcribing, you're listening to lecture, you're participating, making sure that these lectures are distributed to people. There's no me, personal nothing, no benefit to you. It's a cause. Understand? It's a noble cause, we can say. Somebody does help poor children. So there's nothing personally for him. Something gives education to children. There's nothing personal for him. He is working for a noble cause. Understand? You understand the difference between noble cause and personal cause? Personal cause is for myself, me. Noble cause is will benefit somebody. I don't expect anything for me. Okay. So when freedom fighting, so many people fought for India. There's nothing personal about it. It's for the country. So you always work for a higher cause. Right? So when you are working for higher cause and when you are working for a service as Ishvara, will you stop at anything? You'll be a force which cannot be stopped. Your work will be very sharp and focused. You'll be determined. This is the right cause. I'm doing service to Ishvara. Nothing can stop you. No obstacle can stop you. No disturbance can stop you. Right? While going in the road, some road humps are there. Will it stop you? You'll keep on going in the road because your destination is somewhere. You know the destination. Here the destination Karma Yoga is Ishvara, Bhagavan. I want to reach Bhagavan. I want to be one with Bhagavan. And for that I'm doing service. Will any small thing, small irritation, small fights will stop you? And sometimes you do something, results are not favorable. Will it stop you? So you start accepting results as favorable, unfavorable, as a grace of Ishvara. This only makes you motivated to do work better. Are you understanding? You'll get detached yourself from the results of action. Karma phala tyaga will happen. But you will not deviate from your direction. You will not stop. Right? So then gradually, because already mind is becoming more peaceful because of surrender bhakti yoga, and actions are becoming purified because you are not affected by any action in the world. You say it's all grace of Ishvara. Then that's why when you accept everything as grace of Ishvara, there's now Papa and Punya will accumulate because everything is grace of Ishvara. Papa and Punya is impression. No more further impressions are there. That's called Nishkama Karma. So then your motivations are getting purified. Earlier your motivation is personal benefit. Now it's the motivation not personal and universal benefit. Loka Kalyana. Jagadhitaya. Okay. So it's not personal at all. So then your motivations are getting purified. Some selfish reason it is becoming selfless. Your ego is getting dissolved in that process. Your ego is getting dissolved because you are not getting attached to result. No more further impressions are getting built up. Vasanas. Existing vasanas are getting covered up because you are completely focused. Your mind is focused on something. So now this is also surrender. What is surrender? Anything comes, good or bad, as a result of my action. Earlier, what I spoke of, something happening in my life is because of my prarabdha karma. Something happened, destiny. But right now, by my actions are bringing me some good or bad. So I'm not attached to that. That's karma yoga. Next step of bhakti yoga. So the mind starts getting purified. Are you clear? That's called surrender. Now you are surrendering the karma phala. I don't want anything in future. I'm surrendering to you. No more further addresses. Okay. So then karma phala, the karma yoga and bhakti yoga purifies you. That's a grace of Ishvara. Ishvara comes in your life as Guru, teaching, a Gnani. It's very difficult to get a Gnani or Mahatma as Guru in our life. Shankaracharya says it's very difficult to get human life. Out of human life, desire to get mukti is different. So if you get desire for mukti, getting a Guru or Mahatma in your life is very difficult. So then, when Guru comes in your life, do you surrender to Guru? Okay. So the Shankaracharya says you have to surrender to Ishvara. Surrender to Ishvara, your karma, your mind becomes mature. You will develop Shat Sampatti. Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati, Shraddha, Samadhana, you will develop. So that qualifies you for Dani Guru. Now, when you come to Guru, do you surrender? So what is the meaning of surrender to Ishvara? You understood. Surrender to Ishvara means accepting any situation in life is surrender. Accepting not getting attached to results of action is surrender. Karma yoga and bhakti yoga I told. What is the meaning of surrender to Guru? Surrender to Guru is surrendering the ignorance. Okay. When you do Shravana, listening, your wrong understanding has to be surrendered. Wrong understanding of life has to be surrendered. Manana, all your doubts have to be surrendered. Doubts have to go. Nididhyasa, you have to accept the truth. Accept some truth of Vedantic teaching. Tattvamasi, you are Brahman. That has to be accepted. So most of the time you reject it. All the time you reject it. So Tattvamasi, you are Brahman. How can I be Brahman? First thought is how can I be Brahman? When Guru says, it is a surrender, straight. It is truth. The Guru's teaching is Aptavakya. Just like Ishvara is always your well-wisher. Guru is always your well-wisher. Faith, surrender, all the same thing. So Ishvara is a well-wisher. Ishvara doesn't do anything harmful to you. Ishvara doesn't give you wrong information. Guru is also your well-wisher. And love of Ishvara and love of Guru is only pure, because Guru doesn't expect anything. There's no expectation. And only your well-wisher. So when he says something, you should be able to accept it consciously and subconsciously. That's called nididhyasa. So surrender your ignorance to Guru. Surrender your karma and emotional disturbance to Ishvara. Now we do a little bit ulta. We'll come and surrender our emotional disturbance to Guru. We want a shoulder to cry like a friend. Right? So surrender to your emotional disturbance to Guru, service to Ishvara, and surrender your ignorance to Guru. When Guru says something, understand there is a deeper meaning for me. I have to understand and apply it in my life. Start bringing practice of Guru in your life. That's called surrender to Guru. Now, surrender to service to Guru. You cannot give anything back to Guru. You cannot give anything back to Ishvara. Service to Ishvara is not even giving back to the society. Surrender to Guru is for Atmanu Mokshartham, for my own purification. Surrender to Ishvara is Jagaditaya, service. Atmanu Mokshartham, you get Shravana, Mana, Nidhyasa, and surrender your ignorance. Jagaditaya is you participate in Rushi Yajna. Take that wisdom and offer it to somebody else. So this is the meaning of surrender to Ishvara and surrender to Guru. Any doubts are there? Any questions? Is the meaning of surrender clear? So shall we close? Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Amratyorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamuduchyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Nanembudu Nanalla Ideha Manabuddhi Nanalla Sachidanandatma Shivananunani Shivoham Shivoham Shivoham. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am pure consciousness, Shivaswarupi. Atmadarshanam Brahmadarshanam Brahmadarshanam Satyadarshanam. To know the self is to know God. To know God is to be God. To be God is to know the truth. So surrender to Ishvara and surrender to Guru are not different, because Ishvara alone comes in the form of Guru. Ishvaro Guru. And then you realize Atma. Ishvaro Guru Atma iti. Ishvara, Guru and Atma are one and the same. So we are always speaking of surrender to Atma. But surrender to Atma cannot happen suddenly. It has to go through Ishvara and Guru before you realize your own true self. Antarjyotihi, Bahirjyotihi, Pratyakjyotihi, Paratpara, Jyotireva Jyotihi, Swayam Jyotihi, Atma Jyotihi, Shivosmiham, Lokaha Samastaha, Sukhino Bhavantu, Lokaha Samastaha, Sukhino Bhavantu, Lokaha Samastaha, Sukhino Bhavantu. Harihi Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om,